Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host, and this podcast exists to help you improve your communication skills. Whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we know that when we improve our communication skills as leaders, it exponentially changes everything. It improves our relationships, it improves our leadership skills, and it improves our business skills. So let's get ready to dive into this next episode. Well, how do you avoid burnout? We work many hours. Now, work has changed over the years to where so much of our work is involved with technology and computer screens, and we're communicating all day long through emails and text messages and Zoom trainings and in-person meetings. So how do you avoid burnout? And then how do you avoid it to such a way that you prevent yourself from unlocking your full potential? Because we get so tired, we get so run down that sometimes we don't step into our full potential. Well, I am so excited to dive into this conversation today on the Speak with People podcast. I've been looking forward to this episode for months as I reached out to Anna Melikian. She is the author of the Mindset Zone. She's also written the book Mindset Zone, which I read on a plane not too long ago and just highlighted so many lines. It just has helped me so much. Her podcast is absolutely incredible. We'll tell you more about that a little bit. She coaches. She's a speaker, author. I'll stop blabbing away, but Anna, thank you so much for being on the Speak with People podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here. And I so adore that you said that you read my book in the plane, because that was my intention, to do it short enough that I call it an airplane read. So thank you.
I love that. And I actually read it on my way to Phoenix. So there we go. Fantastic. Well, hey, before we hop into the conversation, could you give us just a little bit of your story, who you are, what you do, and how did you get to this place?
So my mission is really to help leaders and organizations to increase their impact while preventing burnout. So what you were telling in the beginning was music to my ear. And my main thing, my background is psychology. That is the lenses through which I see the world. I have a PhD in psychology. I was born and raised Portugal, and I live in Spain, in England, and then I moved here to the United States 20 years ago. And my big thing is that in this world that we can travel so much, that we can learn so many things and do so many things, how can we make a bigger positive impact out there minus the burnout?
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Going back to your story for a second, was it much of a culture shock when you finally did move to the United States?
Absolutely. We think we think that we know what the United States is because of the movies, the TV series that we consume in Europe. And then we arrive here and we start to be living in the culture, and we understand that things are different. And good surprises, other things that that are not so, but it's fascinating. I love the learn from different ways of seeing the world. So it's really, I love to live here. Now it's home.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Would you say, just to kind of hone in one more second, I'm always curious because we've had great podcast guests from the States. We've had great podcast guests from all around the world. So I'm always interested to ask about work cultures around the world. And I know this was 20 years ago when you moved here, but did you find that the culture here was more fast paced? Is it more fast paced in other parts of the world where you've been?
In both continents, and I only can speak about here in the United States and Europe, in both continents, people work really hard. So it's not lack of hard work, and the people get results. There is, I think, things that we can learn from both sides.
Yes.
And from Europe, we really give part of the culture is honoring the breaks, being the weekend break, being the vacation break, and we can be very productive and achieve amazing things with that. So that is something that I think United States could learn from Europe, and Europe could learn from the United States a lot about leadership and inspiring leadership. I think in Europe we are still a little bit behind at that level.
Wow. I love that. And I resonate greatly with that. It is amazing. I'll be 50 next year. And it's amazing as I look back over the last, 30 years, how quick they went. But just the pace and the sun up to sundown and working over the weekend. I started my business 2 years ago and launched out on our own with Speak with People. And I had to stop. It was about 2 months ago. I realized I'm just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday all day, Sunday all day. And very quickly my tank lowered and lowered to a level that, and then it's this is how funny the world is. That's actually when I was Googling and I found your podcast and I started listening. And I was, I just needed that reminder, when it came to burnout and mindset. So that's what brought me to you. So I'm just so excited for this conversation.
Love it.
Well, how could someone who recognizes that their mindset is holding them back? In the mindset zone, you go over kind of the three different mindsets that are there, and I can't wait to kind of dive in more to the adding yet to some of that. So I want to get there, but when that their mindset's holding them back, kind of what's the first step to kind of shift them so they're starting to move forward with that?
And I think it's really important to understand what mindsets are.
Yes.
And when I call it my uh, um, short definition of mindset, we can see them as habits of mind
Mm.
formed by previous experiences. And some of them we know them in a conscious way, others are unconscious, but it's these habits of mind. And those habits of mind are what allow us to be where we are. And at the same time, are often the reason why we remain where we are.
Yes.
So I think we have to see that in that subtle thing, things that serve us to arrive where we are, maybe are the things that we have to let go to go to the next level. And when we have an habit being in our behavior or in our mind, it's very difficult to let it go and
Yes.
replace it by something else. And that is where people usually get stuck.
Do you think it gets so difficult because the older you get, it's harder to change? Some of those experiences you talked about that forms our mindset. We've been, we've
Ye-
experienced failure, we've experienced loss, and we just get stuck. I do a lot of the traveling I do is with my 20-year-old son, and he videos and does our graphics and social media. And we've been actually having this conversation because, the 20-year-old mindset to the 50-year-old mindset. And for so often I come back to, well, talk to me in about 20 years after you've experienced some stuff. But what are some of those major contributing factors to, refusing, our mindset getting stuck in place?
Yes, we can say that there is that young people, by, how do you say, a
Mm.
child to survive, they have to be open to learn and to try new things. That is part of how we are wired. And then we are also wire our brain to preserve energy. So if something works, we get it.
Ooh.
Okay, let's go. And then we preserve the energy by going to a habit there. And that is one of the reasons, like us, we grow. We are not so open for learning. And at the same time, doesn't need to be that way. We
Mm.
keep expanding, but we have to put more intention behind. Keep that beginner's mindset, not in everything, because
Right.
otherwise we don't have time to execute, to implement, but pick always areas where we can like expand a little bit ourselves
Oh,
to balance that.
wow.
Understanding how we are wired and we are not be determined by that, and we can do something about it.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I was consulting with a team last week, actually in Scottsdale, bank managers and financial advisors, and we were talking about when the new person starts on the team and they have all these ideas and energy. And then there's kind of some of the older leaders who say, well, we tried that 5 years ago and that's already been attempted. So I love what you said about trying to keep that mindset of, instead of trying to shut that dial off, how can we keep the dial open so we're willing to continue to grow?
And the very interesting thing, because you're speaking about technology, and now when we speak in technology, we cannot, or say the big technologies, AI, artificial intelligence, and all the new tools that we have,
Yes.
uh, that the new thing that we have to learn. And an interesting thing in terms of the chatbot, the chats, the AI, like ChatGPT, in terms of the prompting, the way that we put information in to get information out and keep
Wow.
that communication going, there are some studies that are showing that so the Generation Xers, the baby boomers, when they get over the thing, oh, it's a new technology, I'm not going to learn it, and when they start to interact with it, because they have more experience, they can create better prompts
Wow.
than somebody that is starting, that can be more comfortable with the technology, but doesn't have the experience to ask the right question.
Wow. Wow, that is fascinating. Well, as you look, I know you study AI. I know you've done, your own research, and I know some of your speaking and training is around that. What are some of your both worries that you have, for leaders and workers who are using it, and then what are some of the unbelievable benefits that you're seeing?
Like the main thing is, this is a big technological revolution that is happening. We are living it. Uh, and like any technology, um, is a tool that can be used for good or not so good.
Mm,
And my big thing is that we humans are the key here.
mm.
If we are just reacting to this technology, bad things will happen, including more burnout is coming. If we take this as an opportunity to reinvent our work, the future of work, we have an opportunity to create a much better future to everybody involved. But
Wow.
we humans and tapping into our potential in our humanity is the key here, in my opinion.
Wow. Wow. Very profound. Years ago, as social media came onto the scene, and we were all trying to figure it out. So I remember reading somewhere, I can't find who said it, but they said, your social media consumption should be, like a couple course meal, not a buffet restaurant. And, it's interesting. Every Sunday morning, I get an alert saying how much I was on my, phone, how much I did average. So I'm curious, in your work and your research, how has, workers being immersed in social media, does it help fuel your mindset? Does it, has it helped deplete energy? Is it giving workers, the fear I'm missing out because we see somebody else, their life is perfect? I know that's kind of a big question, but I'm
Yeah,
just so fascinated because, you're studying this and you're in this. And so I didn't, know if those things are also contributing factors for some of the burnout because, they're draining us.
yeah, it's the acceleration of change. But I like to reframe your question, because the reality, we could all say, okay, we have these mobile devices and uh, I think the iPhone came in 2007. The social media was into 2000s that start to pop out. And then when the smartphones came out, it became something that we carry out everywhere. And yes, increase the burnout, increase the change the way we live. We could say, okay, let's burn the phones.
Right.
That will not work in our society. But it's again, we go back to the principle of the, are we just reacting to everything that the phone does and the notifications? We have the power of choosing what sends notifications
Mm.
from the phone. We have a saying with apps we have and when we see. So it's not I don't like to see us as just reacting to things when we have the power to be proactive, and
Mm.
is tapping into that power with the smartphones, with social media, with artificial intelligence. That is really that key, the self-leadership, and working our mindsets around it can be very helpful.
Wow. Wow. Boy, I love that. I love that. Going back to your book for a second, because I think it ties in. In the first chapter, I was thinking about, at the very end, I love the illustration with the pencil and sharpening your pencil. Could you just, I don't want to, I don't want to,
No, and it's
not
not,
unpack it
it's
the right
not.
way.
And one of my favorite books is the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People of Steve Covey.
Yes.
And in that book, he speaks about the sharpening your axe. Um, and I always like that image, but I never had the experience
Yes.
of sharpening an axe or chopping a tree. Sorry, not never done that. But I have the experience of sharpening a pencil.
Mm.
And I have the experience of writing with the dual tip of a pencil. So I thought that how can I bring this an experience that more people have in
Mm.
their bones to this uh, principle that we have to sharpen our pencil to
Wow.
be able to be more effective and impactful out there. That is where the pencil came. And we are sometimes so busy, like you were describing, doing this, not having the breaks. We feel, I don't have time. I don't have time. And what is our excuse that we don't have time to pause for a moment and sharpen our pencils when we know that by doing that pause, we can have incredible results. Think about another image here. Think about, I don't here in the United States it's not so in the TV, but in Europe, speaking about different cultures, Formula One. And here you
Mm.
also have race cars. So the principle is the same. So every second, millisecond counts, but they know that they have to stop to change the tires in order to be able to go faster. And they do it in a very effective way. But they know that if the tires are not in good shape or not handling, they will crash. They will not be good
Mm.
for them. So they do, even when milliseconds count, they pause to get that done.
Wow.
So why are we not doing that? Because we are so busy, we cannot stop. No, we have to stop to create an impact.
Wow.
Do
Wow. Yes, absolutely. Last week, actually, when I was leading this training, I lead them kind of through an exercise of red,
do
yellow, green. Where are you at
do
right now with your overall health? And it's so telling sometimes, because
do
I'll ask that
do
question and you could just see the heads
do
go down,
do
because
do
they're
do
so busy,
do
they finally have
do
taken a moment
do
to
do
assess.
do
Okay, yeah, I
do
have not sharpened my pencil in a
do
while. I have
do
not checked the tires. We pay for an oil change for
do
our cars,
do
but
do
doctor checkups, counseling, so many of these other issues that can, sharpen our pencil. We let by the late wayside.
and think about even going to another metaphor, sports. Think
Hmm.
about football here in the United States. They are on the game, they have all the intensity of the season, but then they have the off season to recover, because they know if they are always on, they could not perform at that level.
Wow. Absolutely. Well, with
Do
our company,
do
Speak with People, we
do
talk a lot about
do
communication,
do
and
do
obviously words
do
are
do
a part of
do
that. It's
do do
surprising to some people
do
when they find
do
out that
do
in your
do
conversation,
do
words only
do
play
do
a very small
do
part,
do
as to your
do
tone and your
do
body language
do
and all those things.
do
But I
do
love
do
the
do
exercise, the
do
self-awareness
do
exercise that
do
you walk people
do
through, because
do
how
do
often
do do
maybe it's
do
just during
do
burnout. I
do
don't think
do
so,
do
but we get into the
do
mindset where we say things
do
like, I cannot
do
do this.
do
I cannot succeed. And you walk them
do
through, you know,
do
changing those
do
words
do
around. And it's just so powerful. Even in my own life, I highlighted that because there's too many times I speak those negative words into my mindset.
do
How important is it, you know,
do
to change that around for leaders?
vital. It's the
Mm,
always our self-talk determines a lot the beliefs that we are feeding and how we are behaving out there. And sometimes it's the power of language. You are,
mm.
how do you say, you're also a speaker. You know, it's the intuition, it's the order of the words. Everything plays a role in how we communicate. And sometimes one of the tricks from, so in the mindset world, one of that books that is like a seminal book in is the work, the book Mindset from Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck, and where she describes the fix and grow mindsets that now we speak so much in our common language. If we have a fixed mindset, that is a belief that we cannot change, that
Wow.
skill, that thing, or if we believe that even something like our ability of drawing, if we put enough work on that, we can evolve, we can grow on it. So it's a growth mindset.
Wow.
And one of the things from that work is the magic of the word yet. I'm not good I don't get spreadsheets yet. I don't get artificial intelligence yet. Just by adding that word at the end, yet creates a space
Oh,
for learning.
wow. Wow. I don't remember who it was, but yesterday I was watching a leader on a reel, and they said the most dangerous element to your business success is your thoughts. And I thought, oh wow, like even in my young 2 years of leading our business, like I find myself, you know, I think people would describe me as a positive, hopeful, encouraging person. But some days I'm like, if they could see into my mind, I mean, I get embarrassed because I'm like, I live this out, and the power of yet that you laid out here, and even doing a power of yet journal, I thought, oh my goodness, like that would help me start to create a new world, you know, as we're doing this. I love that example and idea.
Yeah. And is not denying the reality of our feelings.
Yes.
Our feelings are important, and sometimes we are down. And one thing is recognize we are, is not denying that reality. It's just deciding that we are not going to stay there.
Mm,
That is the difference. It's like
yes.
another image that usually used in positive psychology is the image of the hot stove. Having we touch a hot stove is hot. That and have the reaction of feeling is hot and painful is good. There are people that have a genetical modification that they don't feel pain, they don't live very long because they don't have that warning system. We need these warning systems of our emotions. The thing is the key is, are we going to be stuck? Something didn't work well. It's the capacity of recovery that we
Mm,
have, the resilience to come back that counts. Is not denying that something bad happened, is how stuck are we going to stay there and how
yep.
quick we're recovering from that.
Wow. So in an office setting, if I'm working with a coworker who I can tell, boy, they have all the signals of being burnout. Their mindset
Mhm.
is, you know, low, that negative, you know, all of those things have dialed in. What are as a coworker, what are some of the steps I can take to help them in that process?
In terms of the burnout, it's important to understand that there are like different dimensions of burnout, and the best thing is always prevention.
Mm,
Because when people are in truly full burnout, they leave, or illness, or they quit, or
yep.
they start finding for it's the turn is one of the reasons for the turnover. So seeing the first signs of overextension or disengagement is a much better way, because there are more things that we can do to intervene. So usually people, when they are truly burnout, they are exhausted
Mm.
psychological and physically, and there are signs that we can see for that, and they start to not be connected, that they start to be even cynical about the work that they do, and feel a lack of personal efficiency of what they are doing. So, but we want to avoid that. So, when for a coworker, I think a leader, a manager is in a much better place of doing something. But a coworker, if you feel that the person keeps overextending themselves,
Mm.
it can, okay, maybe there is something that you can do to help, or a person that was engaged and start to disengage, listening, asking questions, and brainstorming ideas on how they can speak with their manager, the direct reports, how to create a change of the dynamic. I think that is the more effective ways.
Wow. So then let's speak then, if you're the manager, you're the supervisor, and you're recognizing some of these patterns, what are some steps to take? And then if you're the coworker who's the manager coming to, because it seems like sometimes the worker, if they're being approached with this, might get defensive,
Uh,
might immediately put up some walls. What's some advice in those situations?
I think in this kind, and we have tools, and I think part of the work here is not being expecting that the things, again, prevention is the key here, and you don't have to guesstimate it. There are surveys with 40 years of research out
Mm.
there that the 10-minute survey, you can see where all your team is in terms of burnout level. So it's a burnout engaged continuum where people fall into that continuum.
Wow.
So you don't have to guess. You can have people doing a survey and then see the results from that. When I do this in organizations, we preserve, of course, the confidentiality of the results, but we have X% in each quadrant. And then we can design an action plan.
Mm.
Because mainly at leave things, even in terms of the managers and leaders, most of them are overextended,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is just, I call it the frog in the boiling water pot. That is the image of the pot with the boiling water with the frog inside, that they don't feel that the water is increasing degree a degree. They keep there, and they don't jump out of the pot until the water is boiling. It's that image. uh,
Yep.
the overextend is just the slow form of burnout. It's
Mm.
just a question of time. I can handle this 1 degree more. I can handle this 1 degree more, until eventually, if there is no space for recovery,
Yep.
if there is no, sorry,
They want to be a part.
if there is no space for recovery, is really a recipe that person is just a question of time until they get burnout. So
Oof.
I will advise the managers, the leaders, be self-aware about themselves first, and then they will be able to read from the people that they manage the signs
Wow.
and do something about.
Boy, I love that. Do you find, and I could just be, pulling something out of the air here, or maybe it touched home for me, but do you find that people pleasers get themselves more overextended than non-people pleasers?
There is that dynamic for sure, or perfectionists, or
Yes.
there are certain personality characteristics that make us more uh, open to certain overextension, and we see the disengage. It's also a way in my, so we were speaking a couple of years ago a lot about the quiet quitting, the disengage, And it's just a form of, in my opinion, of self-protection that
Wow.
people have, that if they are um, this if they don't see the purpose of the work that they are doing,
Mm,
why going above their job description? Because the quiet quitting is not that they are not doing anything. They are doing their job description. They just don't go the extra mile.
right.
But
Right.
if they don't see a motivation, a purpose, a meaning on that, why? And the younger generation is more, okay, if I don't see a meaning, a purpose, why I'm going to, but just because they're the ones saying that I should be doing that? No, they self protect themselves.
Wow. Wow. Do you find when some
Do,
of those leaders
do,
get into more of a fixed
do,
mindset? I know you talked about
do, do,
blind spots.
do.
We all have them. How do we how do we stay open to when someone points out a blind spot to us? Because so many of us get defensive right
Do,
away, and
do,
those kind of ways. But in
do.
time, we'll probably recognize. Oh wait, they're right.
And I think there has to be some repetition there.
Mm,
When we start, the defense mechanism is natural. We should not be hard with ourselves. But when we are noticing, but is that developing of the self-awareness, increase our self-awareness. And if we notice that, because some people are self-defensive and they
mm.
are not aware that they are self-defensive. But if you create the time and the space to increase our self-awareness about your thoughts, our feelings, and your actions, and start to notice these patterns, that some things are triggering you and some people are doing the same criticism. That is the importance of the 360s. When we see, oh my gosh, I was not aware of it,
Yes.
then it's the time to stop and to do some work. So if there are several people telling this from different places, maybe there is some information here that I have a blind spot around,
Yes.
and be creating a safe space for people to explore that. Because sometimes mainly things that go struck our core beliefs and our sense of identity, we put barriers because
Oh,
it's our self-defense. It's normal. So
right.
we have to create safe space where people can do this personal development work that really allows people to be much professionally much more effective.
Yeah. This may be, and I apologize if this is going too into the personal end, but as I was reading on your website, and it just struck me as we're talking about this and hearing your advice and how you're articulating these amazing insights, how important was, you know, what you've written, what you've experienced as you went through your cancer journey. I mean, you're a survivor. I can't even imagine. And so, you probably experienced the gamut of all of the emotions. And so to keep your mindset, I just be honored if you'd consider, sharing a little bit of that.
Yeah, and the thing is that, how do you say, something I always cognitively, in terms of our thoughts, we absolutely can say that, okay, yeah, I had cancer. I had twice that I went to the road
Wow.
with the cancer, and I don't know the future. So it's something that, because we don't know.
Yep.
Uh, but the reality, let's find some wood here, we don't know who is going to go first, they say.
Yep.
Obviously, I can be walking in the street and there is some water in the floor, slip, have a freak accident, and be gone. So all of us live. The only condition for us to die is to be alive.
Hmm.
And everybody here listening, they are actively listening now and in the future. They are alive because they are listening. So they have the only condition that they need to die, they are alive. So great, they are alive. Wonderful that they're alive. But
Wow.
the thing of a diagnosis and a illness like cancer, the big C's that make us, it's like we see the validity date
Wow.
and we ponder. It's like when
Wow.
we are organizing our kitchen and we look, oh, this validity date is gone, and We have to smell. Are we sure? So makes it very, very present, the validity date, and what are we going to do with it? Um, and that brings clarity when you are have to face in your life for yourself or somebody close to you. And unfortunately,
Yep.
you always know somebody that had cancer is
Yeah.
something or other disease that make you reconsider things. So learn from that. You don't need to be yourself going through that to reevaluate what is important in your life.
Yeah. Goodness. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing a piece of your journey with us. That is powerful. As we turn the corner and finish the conversation, I can't think of a better way to finish than to talk about pie. Towards the end of your book, you kind of
Yeah.
walk us through the pie acronym, especially when we're dealing with, change and being stuck. And so I just wondered if you could walk us through that.
And the pie really started, and I will describe it very briefly, but really start when I was doing training and when I working with people one-on-one or in group. And there are so many amazing tools out there. But when I was speaking, that first contact that we have that we can speak, what could I teach that was so easy for people to memorize that they didn't need a cheat sheet for remember? And that could help them in any personal and professional development that they will doing out there in any program. So I came with that, the practice of the PIE.
Mm.
That is PIE. P is for pause. One of the essential things in personal and professional development work is creating this container that allow us to pause.
Mm.
Can be a conference, can be working with a coach, can be a retreat, can be journaling. So there are different types of pauses, but we have to create these containers that allow us to press the pause button. And then during that pause, we have the space to increase our self-awareness. And that is the
Wow.
I of the pie. The I is increase self-awareness. And we can increase the self-awareness about our thoughts, about our feelings, and about our behaviors. And all three are important. Then is why I like to see them as the three sides of a triangle, because the triangle is this magical shape. If you lose one side,
Yep.
you lose the shape. So we need them all. For some people, it's easier to start with the thoughts. Great, start there. Other people are more connected with their feelings. Wonderful, start there. Other
Yep.
people doing the actions, start there, but then increase your self-awareness, how one dimension reflects in the other dimensions, because they always interplay with each other. So this is
Wow.
how you can increase the self-awareness. And then the E of the pie, P for pause, I for increasing the self-awareness, and finally the E is to embrace the experimentation mindset,
Mm.
because the reality is that if we think about science, when a scientist design an experiment, they expect a certain result. And if they say that they don't, they expect a certain result. When that doesn't happen, they go, what went wrong?
Mm.
And the big breakthroughs happen when they are in that search to what went wrong on that I didn't got the expected results. And I think this is a great reframing for the failures, the setbacks that all of us will have implementing anything. Instead of seeing it as a failure, we can see as new information to learn from. It's an experiment. All results are welcome. Didn't got the expected. Okay, what can I learn from this? And if we do that, we create resilience, and we are in a much better place to keep putting one foot in front of the other and doing the work.
Wow. Wow. That is absolutely incredible. Goodness gracious. I mean, you you just took us through a master class. And so I just so appreciate your time. And especially if any of our listeners are struggling with burnout, struggling with, wanting to unlock their potential and figuring it out, I highly recommend Anna's book and her podcast. Before I do let you go, we're building this online communication library And we're trying to put all the resources from our guests so our listeners can go and say, oh, I want to grab some new resources. So is there a speaker that you just love to listen to, fills your bucket, you love to pass on their TED Talks or their YouTube videos or their podcast to someone else?
I'm a speaker. I'm a member of the National Speaker Association. I just came recently from the Influence, that is big annual conference. So there is always a new speaker that we go, oh, I didn't knew about. Oh, amazing.
Yes.
But the classics are also extraordinary, and we always can learn from them. And I had the luck in this conference of listen live to Les Brown,
Oh,
and we always can learn from him.
absolutely. I love that. You know, what's interesting is just a quick pause. I've been speaking for years. I've always thought about joining the National Speakers Association. So I saw that on your email. So would you give it a big thumbs up for, for a speaker like me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody that the speaking is part of your professional, this National Speaker Association with the local chapters, with the national, is the place to be to increase your craft as a speaker and the art of speaking and the business side of it.
Okay. You sold me. That was the final push I needed. Is there a podcast that you love? It could be either a guilty pleasure or development, but you just find yourself going back and, sending links to other people.
Again, it's a difficult one, but the one that I'm recommending lately is Wiser Than Me from Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh,
Wiser, that she interviewing women that are older than her and wiser than her in so many, and the conversations is very, very well done.
I love that. And is there a book? We got lots of leaders listening. Is there a book that you say, you know what, if you don't read any other book ever, you have to read this book?
And again, I'm an avid reader. I don't know if you can see all the books around me here in the video, the people that see the video. So I'm an avid reader. So this one is very, very difficult. So I'm going to say two.
Okay.
Man's Search for Meaning of Viktor Frankl. Again, classics. I love the classics. That book is all about the power of choice. And then more directly to leadership, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Again, another classic. But will be 2 essential reads, in my opinion, for everybody.
Those are fantastic. Where's the best place we can send our listeners? And we're gonna put your book in our weekly email and in our Facebook group. We cannot wait to share it with our listeners. But where's the best place we can send them, find out more information about you and all that you offer?
So AnnaMelikian.com, my first and last name.com, is always where you can get the more up-to-date information about what I'm doing, including the podcast. And of course, if you are listening to this podcast, first make sure that subscribe to the podcast that you are listening to, follow wherever it is, and then look for Mindset Zone and also follow me there.
I love it. And your podcast is, I've learned a ton just from watching from afar and listening. I just love how you've structured things, how you interview, how you provide amazing insights. And for today, I just can't thank you enough. You just opened up this incredible vault and shared so many great tidbits of wisdom. And this was absolutely incredible. So thank you.
And thank you so much I love what you are doing in speaking with people, because you really are walking your talk, making this fun and insightful. And I love the episodes that I listen from your podcast. So keep going. This is amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speak with People podcast. We hope that you were encouraged. We hope that you were inspired and challenged to improve your communication skills. I want to thank you again for being a part of the Speak with People podcast community. Make sure you don't miss out on being a part of the Speak with People Facebook community group. Just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People, scroll down and join our community, because every single day we're encouraging each other. We're helping each other to improve our communication skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.